This is a very strange class because I'm in the Buddhist Society in the so-called yellow shrine room, which you might see the window of, and you'll see the room is empty. I'm on my own. So all the participants of this evening's class are online. And I'll be talking to an empty room, but many of you hopefully will be listening. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the class. I assume that most people are familiar with the setup. I'll just say a few words about these classes that they run every week. They are held at the Buddhist Society, so if you're in London or passing through or live in London, you're very welcome. They start at 6:30 and go through to 8 o'clock. And the format is very simple. We have a bit of chanting at the beginning, which I can say a few words about. And then we have time or an opportunity to take the refuges and Five Precepts, which I again will say a little bit about. And then we have a period of meditation, and then a few reflections and time for a conversation. So if any questions come up, if you've come to the meeting with some questions, that might be a time to ask them and see what the replies have to offer. The classes used to be run very regularly by the senior nuns at Amaravati, who used to come into town on a regular basis. And then due to sort of geographical movements by the nuns, lay people started taking the class, and there are now three of us. There's Martin Evans, myself, and Randula, who has started teaching the classes. We're all very connected with Amaravati Buddhist Monastery, where we participate in ALBA events, Amaravati Lay Buddhist Association events, which consist of a monthly day retreat and one or two weekend retreats during the year. And there's also a Bodhinyana group run by Martin. So there are plenty of opportunities to meet like-minded friends on the path of practice. It's very interesting being a lay person in a Western country, practicing in a tradition which is firmly established in Thailand, and being one of the oldest, being the oldest extant Buddhist, formal Buddhist tradition. It has obviously accumulated all sorts of conventions, practices, including chanting. I know many Western people have difficulty in sort of switching to devotional chanting. I certainly found it a bit strange to start off with, but after a while it just becomes part of a package, and I don't think we need to make anything big out of it. It does create a set of associations which can be very helpful, very supportive to practice. Just chanting together can change how we feel in ourselves. Just singing or chanting alone has a unifying effect in the brain. So give it a try, see what it feels like. The nice thing is it's not compulsory, it's not mandatory, and neither is any bowing mandatory. This is really a sort of come and see, taste and see, and find out for yourself exercise. It's very experiential. There are no dogmatic injunctions. The only undertakings we really take are is a commitment to observe the Five Precepts. And if one feels really inspired and committed to what the Buddha taught as a path for oneself, we take refuge in not the Buddha historically necessarily, although some people like to do that, but taking refuge in what the Buddha represents, which is an enlightened, embodied enlightened mind. And his invitation is to follow his example, but we've got to do it ourselves. Nobody can do it for us. It's a path of potential transformation, which works on many levels, just the ordinary, everyday, psychological, emotional level. It works also on a much higher level especially when we get into the territory of meditation and insight practice, which can bring about some radical changes in one's perception of the world, perception of oneself, eventually leading to waking up to the nature of reality as it really is, and not just how we perceive it. So that little brief introduction hopefully sets the scene. I hope you're all sitting comfortably and in nice surroundings, supportive surroundings. I will turn to the shrine behind me and I will light 2 candles and an incense stick or 2 or 3 perhaps even, and then I'll do the opening dedication of offerings. Unfortunately, you all have to be muted because unfortunately when we all chant together, if we're unmuted, it makes a real cacophony, not very harmonious. So you'll just be hearing my voice, but you're very welcome to join in. Mark, whom you might see on your screen alongside me at the top of the screen, has very kindly offered to screen share, so you don't need to hold a chanting book. You can just follow the words as they scroll through down the screen. So thank you very much, Mark, for doing that. I don't know if you can hear the gong, but there's a lovely Chinese big bell here, big gong. I see a few thumbs up. Good. I'm glad that can be heard. Great. It's an amazing. It belongs in a temple, probably 10 times the size of the room that I'm in. Good. So I will just turn to the shrine and do the honors here. We can screen share now. Dedication of offerings. Thank you. Yoso Bhagava Araham Samma Sambuddho, to the Blessed One, the Lord, who fully attained perfect enlightenment. Swakato yena bhagavata dhammo, to the teaching which he expounded so well. Supatipanno yasa bhagavato savaka sangho, and to the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well. Tamayam bhagavantam sadamam sasangham, to these the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha. Ime sakare hiataraham aropite hi abhipujayama, we render with offerings our rightful homage. Sadhu no bhante bhagava suchira parini bhutopi, it is well for us that the Blessed One, having attained liberation, Pachima Janata Nukampamanasa, still had compassion for later generations. Ime sakare dugatapanna karabhute patiganhatu, may these simple offerings be accepted. Amha kamdi garatam hitaya sukhaya, for our long-lasting benefit and for the happiness it gives us. Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava, the Lord, the perfectly enlightened and blessed one, Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivademi, I render homage to the Buddha, the blessed one. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo, the teaching so completely explained by him. Dhammam Namasami, I bow to the Dhamma. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho, the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well. Sangham Namami, I bow to the Sangha. Andamayam Buddhasa Bhagavato Pubhava Ganamakaram Karamase. Now let us pay preliminary homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. We now turn to page 128 to take the three refuges. So in taking the three refuge, what we're doing is, for those who choose to take the refuge, is making a commitment to dedicating our life and practice to realization, the waking up principle, to the nature of reality, to the way things are, to the truth. We take refuge in the teachings that point to the truth and in the truth itself. The truth is quite impersonal, it's just the way things are. And going beyond confusion or just thinking about things, one comes to a waking up moment when things become very, very clear. When they become clear, a reorganization of our inner energies and thoughts, processes, feeling processes takes place, which gives a sense of lightness, of being, of presence, which leads to a sense of well-being, of fulfillment, of meaningfulness. So taking the three refuges is basically an aspiration and a commitment at the same time. So, Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble. to refrain from taking the life of any living creature. Adinadanna verimani sikhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept. Conduct. Musavada verimani sikhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from lying. Surameraya majja pamadatana verimani sikhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness. Imani pancha sikhapadani silena sugatim yanti, silena bhogasampada, silena sugatim yanti, tatyam silam visodaye. These are the 5 precepts. Virtue is a source of happiness. Virtue is a source of true wealth. Virtue is a source of peacefulness. Therefore, let virtue be purified. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So as you've probably noticed, we all have noticed that chanting just for 5 minutes or so, or 6 minutes, however long it might have taken, definitely creates a change of mind shift. The repetition also helps, as it were, the words to go in a little bit more deeply, to register. So it breaks our sort of normal discursive pattern of thinking processes and helps create the right sort of platform or atmosphere for some meditation. And for meditation, as many of you have heard many times probably, the key is not to force anything and not to be too relaxed either. So finding a sitting posture that is comfortable, upright. Just adjust your posture as you need to. You can sit cross-legged or sit in a chair. Best not to lean against something unless the chair is uncomfortable and forces you to rest against the back. And just give yourself a little time to sort of settle in. What always helps is using our breathing as an affect regulator. So just breathing in naturally and then breathing out and just pausing for 2 or 3 seconds at the end of the out breath. And just notice the effect that has on one's sense of presence, on one's body feelings, sensations, and mind states. So you do that 3 or 4 times, just natural in-breath. And then as the out-breath flows, so we relax into an upright sitting posture. And just pause at the end of the out-breath for 2 or 3 seconds. And do that 2 or 3 times. We notice an immediate calming of mind and body. And then just observe how we're breathing. Are we breathing with the upper part of the lungs, or Is our diaphragm relaxed, and can we breathe abdominally or diaphragmatically? Noticing if we are breathing with the diaphragm, with the belly, can we notice the belly expand and contract as the diaphragm presses down, as the lungs take in the air that we're breathing in. We live in a society which places great emphasis on thought, on thinking, on processing. So we're very much in our heads a lot of the time. So for many of us, it's beneficial to learn to breathe with our attention on either the heart region or the lower belly, or both, so that we breathe with the whole body and not just the lungs, in the upper part of the lungs. It can take a while to learn to breathe with the diaphragm, but the benefits are enormous. We carry a lot of tension in the stomach often, in the inner organs are all contracted. Problems such as IBS and so on. So learning to relax deeply in the body is conducive to feeling more centered, more grounded, more relaxed. And it's good to use the breath as a reference point, noticing how our mind has a tendency to wander off. When we do notice the mind wandering off somewhere, the moment we've noticed it, it's already being connected with, not going off on a journey of proliferation. So we can't force anything, or it's not helpful to try and force anything. Just noticing the flow of air as it enters the nostrils, down the windpipe, through the heart region, lungs, pressing down on the diaphragm, and feeling the belly move. Just have to be patient, not force anything, just breathing in, noticing the pause at the end of the in-breath, and breathing out. Noticing the pause at the end of the exhalation. Noticing the silent pauses. Being patient, understanding, accepting the fact that the mind is often unstable, and understandably so. It's processing all day long. And we can't expect it to suddenly stop just because we want it to. A little bit like a car that's been driving at speed all day long. A city car, stopping, starting, turning left, turning right, racing along. Can't just slam the brakes on and stop. Just have to allow the momentum of the car, momentum of the mind to slow down naturally in its own time. So we take the foot off the accelerator by just simply paying attention to the breath, to the sensations of the body, and the slowing down will just happen quite naturally because we haven't got the foot on the accelerator. Some people find it helpful to look at the back of the eyelid, just focusing on the lights, all the movement there, just focusing on something immediate, visual. Notice how that in itself might elicit a slightly deeper in-breath and a relaxing out-breath. Breathing in and breathing out. You might notice the silence and the stillness in the background. And breathe in and out of that. Breathing into the stillness and silence and out of the stillness and silence. notice as things arise in consciousness, they manifest, then they change, fade, something else comes, arises, and also fades and ceases. A relentless flow of phenomena, mental, emotional, physical. Our thoughts come and go, emotions come and go, sensations come and go. But our awareness is constant. Our knowing what's happening is always immediately here and always now. Just checking in where our attention is. What are we noticing? In other words, just coming into the present moment of awareness. Breathing in, breathing out, sitting, noticing, accepting this moment just as it is. As we open our eyes, we notice the colors of the objects in the room we're in, the walls, the ceiling, floor. We also notice how we're feeling inside, having just sat for 25 minutes or so in silence, the difference that it makes. Not having to focus on a specific object, which might be threatening or need addressing. This happens so often during the day when we're going about our business. We can be in just a much more receptive, open frame of mind, feeling calmer and stiller in ourselves, and just noticing things at our leisure. A little bit like sitting in a park, just observing people, birds, trees. And sometimes that's all we need, just to break the day or break up a train of thought, is just to stop, pause, take a few breaths, and just be, as opposed to be doing all of the time. It is not only psychologically healthy, but it also creates a space for a reflective process to observe the changing nature of phenomena and actually clock the fact that no phenomena is stable, it's constantly changing. But what doesn't change is our awareness of the phenomena. We often lose sight of the fact that we are aware because we're so caught up in what we're aware of. So it's like an initial stage is to learn to differentiate the fact that we are aware and that we're aware of objects, of thoughts, of feelings, sensations, perceptions. And we identify with things that come up because of the feelings that we have about the things that come up. Things that we like, we go for, and we push away and are averse to the things that we don't like. So we're caught up in a relentless process of reactivity, which is very understandable. There's nothing to condemn there. But as we learn to notice this habitual reactive pattern that we all have, we notice that actually it's possible to notice and not be reactive, or to be less reactive. So a lot of our so-called practice is about becoming less reactive. So learning a combination of acceptance that this is how it is, and of letting go. Those two sides of the same coin, really. Accept the moment as it is, be it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, and just let it go, not hold on to it. And just by doing this and persevering in this practice, in this habit, we start finding there's a certain flow to life. There's a way of being with things as they arise, which is less stressful, less disturbing, less upsetting. So every time we're caught up in a strong feeling, one could say we're in a danger zone, because strong feeling leads to strong words or strong actions, strong patterns of behavior. So we want to observe and not get too caught up in what we're experiencing or what we're observing. A word that is often used to help us center is to be present, presence, to be present. That's not an idea. Being present is just being here and being now, here and now. And it can be quite helpful to examine what is actually here and what is now. So we can say and experience the effect of just saying that I am here, I am. I'm here, I am. The I am is immediately recognizable because it's presence. But when we look into what this I is it a person? What is it? Is it an it, even? This really touches on the key teaching of the Buddha, of not self. There is no I. You could say there is an I amness in this moment of just present moment awareness, in which the personality, our likes, our dislikes, our habits arise. But there's no fixed identity there at all. There's no I, me, or mine. There are just feelings, emotions, sensations happening in a state of presence, in a sense of presence, of just being present, being aware. This awareness, consciousness, whatever we want to call it, is always present. There's always a background knowing, whether we're happy, we're sad, or unhappy, or angry. We know the feeling, we know the thought, we know the emotion. So if we get so caught up in the thought, the emotion, the feeling, that we lose sight of the fact that we know what we're feeling. It's a strange one. So our knowing is always present. What is knowing? Knowing is just simply knowing that right now it's just like this. So we find what we are in the knowing, but not in what we know. When we connect with this sense of being in the moment, sort of a realignment takes place. We feel different. Why do we feel different? Because we're actually where we really are, and not in a projection, not in a proliferation, not in a thought, not in an idea, not getting lost in a sensation. We know the sensation. We can feel what the sensation does to the body, does to the mind. But the sensation is just a sensation. It comes, arises, in dependence on conditions. and it fades away when the conditions change. So this is a sort of introspective inquiry, investigation, in the context of whatever our lives may be throwing at us. Life can be very confusing. We have all sorts of demands made on us, obligations, duties, responsibilities. We have our concerns, our worries, our anxieties. And life can be full of those. And we have to deal with them. But finding time to inquire into these deeper questions as to who we are, who am I, what is this all about, is a much profounder question. And it's nice to try and cut some time to time box, to create time to address these sort of questions. One may ask, how does this relate to the Buddha Dhamma, Buddhist teachings? Well, the Buddhist teachings are about waking up to the way things are. And it offers, the Buddhist tradition offers a wonderful platform because it addresses the physical, it addresses the psychological, the emotional, and it addresses the spiritual as well. The 5 precepts that we take and commit to basically create a code of conduct, a code of ethics and morality, which respects others, respects life, is essentially harmless in its intentions, not taking what's not given, not taking a life, respecting other people in relationships, not lying, being truthful, not distorting our mind states by alcohol or intoxicants of one type or another. These are all things which create psychological health. The emphasis on generosity, on not being self-centered, but being aware of our relationship to others and experiencing the acts of generosity in words, speech, or actions, to loosen the sense of a fixed identity, to open us up to the flow of life, a sense of connection, to break down the sense of separation that we experience, to experience love, essentially, which is a sense of connection, because we are part, physically, emotionally, of a much bigger process. So these 5 precepts offer a platform. They can tidy up our life. If we lie or are untruthful, we deceive ourselves and deceive others. And it doesn't leave a nice feeling. So being truthful, being kind, being respectful, allows us to feel good about ourselves, allows us to sleep well at night without a guilty conscience. It also allows us to explore our psyche. When we go still and with practice learn how to center and settle into a state of absorption, we experience a reorganization of all our inner aspects. Issues come up in meditation because we're allowing them to come up to the surface. It might mean having to change habits of behavior, acknowledge hurts that one may have caused to others, but it allows one to have a clean conscience, a peaceful mind, a peaceful heart, which, apart from being a nice sense of well-being, giving us a nice sense of well-being, it also allows us to be nicer and kinder and live in greater harmony with those around us. And these changes are all challenging to our likes, to our dislikes. So it's a journey that benefits from encouragement, from support, from like-minded practitioners, from listening to the right talks, the right programs, not filling our head with too much rubbish. And our society is very good at producing lots and lots of rubbish, not necessarily very helpful or good for our sense of well-being. But these sort of few reflections that I've offered are really for consideration, and if you feel prompted to either ask a question or make an observation, please feel free to do so. Best way to do that is to raise that electronic hand, because that puts you to the top of the screen, and then we know who's asking the question or wants to say something. Then you can unmute yourself, or Mark can unmute you. So if you do have a question or a thought or a reflection, please feel free to share it. And if not, we can just sit and listen to the silence. Yes, Will, hello. Can you unmute yourself, or shall I? I'm not sure if I can unmute you. Let me just see if I can do that. Or maybe Mark can do that. Can you do that yourself, Mark? Can you? Sorry, Will. Can you unmute yourself? No, you can't. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. I asked to unmute.
Yes. There we go. Thanks, Nick. Thank you very much this evening. I hope you're not too lonely there by yourself. Oh, I can't hear you now, but
there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Apparently there's a tube, some problems on the tube. The sort of transport has stopped in central London, which is why nobody could get here.
Right.
But anyhow, yes, your question.
Yeah, thanks. No, well, yes, just more reflection, really. I suppose something in the way of discussion. I've found it interesting recently in terms of mindfulness of breathing. Sort of something that switched for me is really concentrating on the rhythm of the breathing itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of moving away from not moving away, but less focus on the actual, stop, start of breathing. Actually, just the rhythm
mm-hmm.
of an object itself. I found that very calming and it just makes me think everything has its own natural rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, there's something there, and it just feels like, we think of fast and slow, and it almost feels like nothing can really be faster or slower in terms of experience. It's just got a rhythm to it, and I just thought I'd offer that, because that's, having focused on the breathing for many years, that's just been a interesting switch in the way I've started to meditate, which I found.
Sounds good. It sort of sounds like a sort of foretaste of an absorption, really, when suddenly we get so absorbed in what we're doing that it sort of, as it were, fills our consciousness, and we just notice all sorts of refined little perspectives on something which is just simply breathing, but it's not interrupted or interfered with by other thoughts or trains of thought. So as we get absorbed into it, we become the breathing. As opposed to me breathing, we are the breathing, which is a lovely sensation. So good. Yeah, I hope it continues. The key is not to make anything of it. Not to make it something to try and hold on to, because when one tries to hold on to any state of absorption, it disappears straight away.
Thank you, Nick. I hadn't seen it like that, actually, but that's useful. Thank you.
Thank you for mentioning it and sharing it with us. It's this reactive process that we are constantly experiencing is something that can be triggered by anything, including just a period of silence. One can feel sort of a sense that hopefully somebody will say something. It happens socially a lot, of course, because there's a lot of pressure on engaging in communication. But it's interesting to observe what happens if one just sits quietly and just sits there, not be driven by social conventions. So it's nice to give ourselves permission just to sit quietly. And if something does come up that feels relevant, then we can share it. Yes, Naresh, hello. Let me just unmute you. I'm going to do that. Ask to unmute. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excuse me. I'm new to the Buddhist thing, and I find one thing I do find hard is meditation. It's not so much to do the meditation. It's actually get into the rhythm of doing it constantly on the same time, but it feels different every time. And maybe it's too early for me. I've been trying to do it for a few months, which is probably quite short. So I was trying to figure out, how long does it take to feel comfortable more than anything else with doing it. And I know it's probably, you've probably been doing this for years, but do you also find that some days are just like it's like it's just going around in your head,
Yeah. Well, the key to meditation is just simply witnessing. It's just observing what's happening, but doing it in a physical posture, generally of stillness. It can be walking, but just simply noticing. So noticing the thoughts, noticing the sense that one is looking for something, noticing that one is looking for an outcome of some kind. It's going into that witnessing of whatever arises. So if it feels uncomfortable, we notice that it feels uncomfortable. If it suddenly feels pleasant, we notice that it feels pleasant. Don't hold on to the pleasure because it might pass, it might stay. So it's just stepping back into something that we do already, but we don't recognize the significance of it. And when I say do, knowing doesn't require any doing. It's just something that we notice. So taking on a posture, all sorts of unfinished business is activating the body, restlessness, boredom, looking for emotional images or sensations that are pleasant. Initially, we get caught up in all this activity, but with practice, we just learn how to observe it and not get taken for a ride.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out actually, like, I understand learning to meditate and stuff like that. Also incorporate, like thinking about the meaning of the Four Noble Truths and stuff like that. At the same time, maybe it is too early for me to. Probably I'm finding it just confusing at the moment. That's probably what it is. And then the thing is, I understand it. I understand the Four Noble Truths, and initially when I heard it, it did get to me. But then the meditation and stuff like that, you don't. I guess I thought I'd have the same feeling as I had the first time I heard it, but it's not the. Maybe it's become normal for me. I don't know, and I understand it. And some days I understand it better than the other days. Or maybe I don't know if that's normal or.
It's absolutely normal. Absolutely normal, Naresh. It's just a question of being patient and observing the reactive process, joining events such as this or going to other classes or events. And just allowing these thoughts and reflections just to percolate. And sometimes you will make a sudden connection. So that's what that particular phrase meant, or this particular teaching meant that. Four Noble Truths is always a good one to come to. There's an experience which might be pleasant or unpleasant. What's giving rise? Why is it pleasant? Why is it unpleasant or pleasant? It's because we want something to be different to how it is. So that's what that feels like. So it's a sort of bubbling up of thoughts, reflections, teachings that you hear, thinking about them, either consciously or just allowing them to come to the surface. But it sounds to me that you're going through a trajectory that most people, when they come to Buddhist practice, experience.
Yeah, because when you're doing it by yourself, it's difficult to know which way. If you're going the wrong way, or you don't know what path you're on, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe I'm going, like a snake at the moment. We feel like I'm.
Well, we do that as well. We have all sorts of experiences on the path of practice. But it sounds like you're doing well, Naresh. So thank you very much for raising that.
Thank you.
Mariano, you have a question? Let me just see. Do I have to unmute you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Well done. Yes, great.
Yes, I was caught myself in the tube for an hour, almost wetting myself.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, there is a real problem, or there has been on the district line. Anyway, thank you very much for pointing out the role of the precepts and the whole of the ethical side of it, which is not an add-on. It is actually adding on to it is offering a different way of looking at things and suggesting ways in which we can actually start walking in that sense with the right view. So very important. But also in relation to the previous question, my young teacher in the very beginning, as people would come along and she would ask, she was naughty, she would ask, so you've been meditating for a while? Oh, yes. I've been meditating for a month or two and almost an expert. And she would say, now you stop meditating and you begin the daily life practice to the horror of everyone. And what she meant by that was meditation is the whole of your life. It is whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, whatever you're doing. And we've got a strong tendency in the West, at least, to think that meditation is something so very special, different. It is just an instance of the cultivation of awareness in our daily life practice, following the precepts at the same time, because they are guiding us. And it is, and so to me, it ceased to be a problem when it clicked in. It is not whether you manage to sit an hour and a half or half an hour for whatever reason or whatever, because it carries on. When you are eating your breakfast, when you're doing your washing up, when are you giving your heart to it, or are you lost in thoughts? That's what we tend to do. It is so special. I might try and get to the bottom of it while I'm sitting there and then forget about it and do whatever else my heart is inclined to do and get lost all over the place. Whereas, if it is more of informing our life moment after moment after moment, and yes, we get lost time and again, and yes, we keep coming back to where we are, then there isn't that kind of anxiety, not getting it right, or it is evolving, developing, and the understanding comes from it as well. Laying myself down, letting go and accepting, as you said, the two sides of a shutdown.
Well, thank you, Mariano. Thank you for your thoughts and reflections. Yeah.
Madeline has a question, Nick.
Who does?
Madeline.
Madeline, yes, I see you there with your hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I just wanted to offer a little suggestion to Naresh.
Yes.
I sit with Chithurst Monastery. There's a live stream every Sunday evening from 7:30 to 8:30, and it's a guided meditation, and it's really, really wonderful. And I think if you're new to meditation, you might find it helpful. There's one particular German monk who I like very much, and he offers a little mantra. It's just breathe in, breathe out, let go. So you just, every time, you just calmly just breathe in, breathe out. And if a thought comes into your mind, just let go. And it's I find it myself very calming and very helpful not to get caught up with the proliferation of thoughts that sometimes comes into your head. So you might like to try that. Naresh, am I pronouncing your name correctly? It's they're really wonderful monks and give very good guidance on guided meditation. So you might find some of the things they offer helpful to get you grounded in a mindful practice.
So, Naresh, thank you very much, Madeline. Just to point you in the right direction, it's Chitta Viveka or Chithurst Monastery. That's what you need to go type into your web search.
And it's on YouTube. It's really easy to sign up and join in.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madeline. That's a great suggestion. See, things and objects can never make us fully happy. They can make us happy for a little bit, just as a person can make us happy for a little bit, but people change, objects get old, we get tired of them, even though they might last a long time. So the longer I live, the more I see clearly the truth of these teachings. What do we invest our energy in? Acquiring things? Yeah, it works for a little bit, but not for long. We've got to leave it all behind anyhow. But if we wake up to the treasure that we are, which is truth and awareness, we come to something priceless, something which can have no value on it because it's priceless, literally. That's waking up to the unconditioned, in which the conditioned arises. It's a strange state of affairs. We have this awareness, and I say we have it. We are awareness, and our lives arise in awareness. Our thoughts, our feelings, our dramas, our sadnesses, our disappointments. But our awareness is timeless. And when that is recognized and woken up to, it gives a sense of real ease and makes it easier to accept the vicissitudes and challenges and the hurts and pains of life. If we look at how much suffering there is in the world and how much we have personally maybe suffered either in relationships or in life, it's really worth investing one's energy and effort and time in things that really do mean something. And once one's had a taste of peace, once had benefited from the blessings that good teachings give, good pointers give, mixing with the right people who have the same sort of interest of self-improvement, of self-investigation, it really gives meaning to life and a sense of purpose, which is meaningful sense of purpose. Yeah, well, I'm aware of time. We're coming up to 8 o'clock. I hope you found the evening helpful and supportive in way of spending time. I'm not quite sure who's leading the class next week, but the class will be here at the same time. I'd like to conclude the evening with a chant, which is on page 41. It's one of my favorite chants. The world is in need of this chanting, and so much suffering going on, taking place as we speak. So we're very blessed and very fortunate to be able to spend an hour and a half in practice. So if Mark could screen share. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs. Thank you. What we'll do now is do the closing homage, which I believe is on page 16. Just go around the face of the shrine. Briefly explained by him, Dhammam, Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho, the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well. Sangham Namami, I bow to the Sangha. Thank you very much for screen sharing for us, Mark. That brings our evening to an end. Very nice to see you all. Thank you for joining. I wish you all well. We have a good week ahead and see some of you maybe next week. So lots of love and good wishes to you all.